Welcome back to the Arizona Daily Mix. September is Suicide Awareness Month, and Copper Springs wants to remind you that they're here to give you hope and support through your journey to recovery and wellness. And joining us today is Courtney Stronger, who is going to talk to us about, of course, Copper Springs, but you're also an outpatient therapist.
Correct.
And I'm noticing more and more places are having outpatient therapists because it's a little plus for those patients. And before we get into that, let's talk about Copper Springs. How long has the company been around?
There is a Copper Springs in the West Valley that's been around for about 5 or 6 years. I work in the hospital that's in the East Valley, Copper Springs East, and we just celebrated our 1 year last month.
Oh, that is so great,
Yeah.
and so important right now, especially as we are coming out of the stay-at-home things, people going back in the home. But again, we saw a very high rise in suicide during this pandemic, and that's where Copper Spring comes in to give hope. And let's talk a little about that, because again, I know we talk about it during September, but it's something we should always be talking about, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about outpatient therapy and what you guys do for them.
So we offer multiple levels of care. We pretty much try to meet people where they're at. We do have a partial hospitalization program. It's 5 days a week. It's usually from 9 to 1. It's about 20 hours of therapy a week. It's pretty intense. The patients do have access to our psychiatrist, our nurse. They even have access to an internal medicine doctor, as well as obviously our therapists and our team to be able to really work on what brought them into the hospital or what their needs are, help them with sobriety, really meeting them where they're at. We also have an intensive outpatient program, which is 3 hours a day, 3 days a week. It's 9 hours basically a week of therapy. Same thing, it usually lasts about 8 weeks. It is an opportunity for people to really grow and understand a little bit more about themselves. The great thing about group therapy is that they're able to be around peers who are going through very similar things, that they think that a lot of people just think that they're alone. Yeah. And as a therapist, I can offer all sorts of skills and resources, but when it comes to really normalizing that experience, having a peer in the room to just be like, you know, I experienced that too. I thought I was the only one. I mean, I can only describe it as sacred. Yeah. It's beautiful.
And with that, it's nice to have people around that you can discuss, you know, your thoughts with and where they're coming from. And I think a lot of people kind of do not like to hear suicide. You know, we don't, but it's something that we got to talk about because we're seeing it in our children, we're seeing it in our elderly, we're seeing it in a lot more people that you would never think that they would want to take their lives that way. Yeah. And that's where we need to open up and listen. And sometimes it's hard for your family member or your spouse or somebody to hear that. So it's great to come to Copper Springs because you guys can work them through talking out the differences, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, we do suicide screening. That's a pretty common thing that we do in our hospital. We're also an inpatient facility, so we can, again, meet people where they're at. If they're in crisis and they need inpatient treatment, we also have a 72-bed facility for adults. So we really can just kind of meet people where they're at. And yeah, they can come into group, they can really share the things that they're dealing with. And I mean, I've been a therapist for a really long time. I've never seen people get better quicker than I have in outpatient. It really is a sacred experience.
Yeah, because I think people get scared that, oh my goodness, I have to be in a hospital, I'm going to be institutionalized. Thank you. You know, and that's, I think, is a scary thing for them. And so I think with the outpatient, they're not having that stigma of being in a mental hospital. No. They more can control. And that's what's really good, too, because my understanding, you know, and you could probably agree with me, when people have been in the hospital, you know, they're not in the setting that actually set them off. And now when you guys take in the outpatient, you're able to talk to them in their setting so they can adapt.
That's a really good point. The other thing that we do is we work with the family. We'll invite the family to come in and do family sessions to understand a little bit about what's going on and what is that dynamic and how can we support this patient whenever they're finished, because they are going to stay in that environment. So we're able to really meet people where they're at. We're able to support the family and let the family know kind of what to expect and empower them to be able to support their loved one. It's just a really great opportunity to provide that holistic care.
Yeah, it is. Courtney, I'm going to ask you one little tip for someone who's sitting at home who might have someone who's in a crisis or they might be going through a crisis. What should they do to come to Copper Springs? What's something they should look at?
They can just show up. We're available 24/7. We have clinicians available just don't be scared. Reach out, give us a call, just walk in, get help, because you don't have to live like this. There's hope and there's help available, and people like me are passionate to help them.
Yeah.
We just need to figure out what they need, and we're happy to meet them wherever they're at.
Yeah, I like that, Courtney, because a lot of people think they have to make an appointment to do this, but if they can just show up, that's the start right there, and that's important for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. We have information on aztv.com about, of course, Copper Springs and how you can get a hold of them. And of course, if you are in need of any help, please give a call. It's not that hard. The number is there, and we'll have information more on, of course, aztv.com. Thank you, Courtney.
Yes, thank you.
All right, we have more of their Daily Mix coming up right after this.